It's been a while since I've done one of these, so if you're watching, you're probably not watching it live. You're watching it later, and that's okay. This is the NAB 2023 pre-show, I don't know, stream, whatever you want to call it, hangout, chill, relax. We're going to go over some of the stuff that I'm looking forward to, checking out, seeing. I'm going to be at NAB tomorrow. I'll be in Vegas. So my flight is first thing out tomorrow morning. I'll be heading out. And it should be a good time. I always enjoy NAB. It's been a few years since I've been because of everything that's been going on. And I feel like there's a lot to catch up on that we can talk about, discuss, as well as just look forward to. I think there's some interesting things ahead, not necessarily in terms of hardware and equipment, but some other things that we'll get into. And yeah, we'll just kind of see how this goes. If you don't know what NAB is, I'd be surprised because I think everybody knows what NAB is if you're watching this. But NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters. It's the show, the convention, the conference they put on every year. You know, they've been doing it for 100 years now. So this is the 100th year of NAB show, or if you say NAB show, I suppose you could say it that way as well. And it's a pretty cool event. There's a lot of this kind of stuff, the really big systems and infrastructure behind the scenes, you know, for broadcast, right? That's why this exists. I think it was actually started with radio, and we can maybe look that up in a little bit, kind of see some of the history, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, broadcast radio is what kicked it off. And then, of course, you know, over the years, it's evolved, and digital has become part of it in a certain component, but it's still very much centered around the big industry type stuff. But there is some filmmaking equipment, although like there's other events like Cinegear, which are maybe more filmmaker Hollywood driven, where NAB show is kind of a little bit of everything. It's massive. And I don't know, let's see if I want to do maybe this. Let's stick with that for now. And yeah, if you've never been, I highly recommend it. I'll be doing some stuff there tomorrow as far as like walking around the exhibits and whatnot. So maybe we'll do a recap at some point. But yeah, this is just us kind of going through, talking about what I think is interesting. So the place that I go to the most is honestly 4-3 Rumors, 4-3rd Rumors, however you want to say it. This has been my go-to site for almost a decade now. I feel like it always has the best stuff that I'm into because I'm a Lumix fan, right? I'm a 4-3rd shooter. I have been for quite a while, not because of some weird loyalty, but just because those cameras tend to work the best, I think, for what I need to do. So 4-3 Rumors usually has some pretty good stuff, but nothing, you know, as far as like rumors or anything for NAB right now. Mirrorless Rumors is another site you can always check if you're interested. It's kind of all things mirrorless, which nowadays is almost, you don't even need to say it because everything has just become mirrorless. For a while, you had to differentiate and you had to say, oh, you know, hybrid or DSLR. And then that didn't really make sense. DSLR didn't make sense because everything was mirrorless. And now everything is literally mirrorless with you know, all the different mounts now. L Rumors is another site. So this is for L mount type stuff. So you'll get updates on lenses and that sort of thing. Let's see what here's down at the bottom. There's some video about the S1H2 and the leaked specs, but the commenters don't seem to think this is a video worth watching, so I wouldn't pay it too much credence. There's Sony Alpha Rumors is another site. If you're into Sony equipment, everything Sony is here. And then there's CanonRumors.com, where you can find everything Canon. Of course, there's Nikon and Fuji and all the other ones, but this is kind of the list I go through to stay up to date, and I'm not checking them religiously anymore. I'm not like tuning in every day like maybe I once was, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that, actually. It's interesting. The industry seems to, and I don't know, this is probably good and bad. I notice it in myself, but also it seems just to be a reflection of the nature of things. So if I go on these sites, any of them, right? 4-3 Rumors, for example, right? One comment on this article. Now, granted, it's like some kind of like almost like an artificial intelligence and photography survey. So yeah, I wouldn't expect good engagement, but 0 comments. Again, that's kind of like an ad. 2 comments, 1 comment, 0 comments, 9 comments. It's pretty like dead. Same thing with Mirrorless Rumors. Like all of them, I feel like everything's kind of just like dead. which I don't know. I don't know if that's just my perspective. Maybe there's better places to go. Certainly, you can always let me know if there's some cool new hot spot. But, back in the day, it was reduser.net, or I don't know, maybe everyone's over on Reddit now. I suppose that's another good place to go. But like, yeah, the blogs have kind of fallen off. But like the news, the industry, it's all kind of like really gotten slow and quiet. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm hopefully this year we can kick things back up. Maybe that's what this is for. It's me projecting that into the universe. Let's kick things back into high gear. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's put some energy back into cameras and gear and lenses. I kind of stopped streaming and stopped making content. And, I've been intermittent over the past couple years, just, on again, off again, here and there. And I was really hoping that like we'd see some more interesting creator stuff. I don't know, some more voices would come out, more people would be out there, streaming or creating content. And it just seems like a ghost town. And I'm curious to see what NAB is going to be like tomorrow, because I certainly hope it's not a ghost town. I can't imagine it'll be. But certainly in like the YouTube space, the blog space, it's all really slowed down. And this might not be a bad thing. For me, I've spent the last 3 years creating content, not on this channel, not streaming. And I had this like mental, I don't know, moment just thinking, okay, if I'm going to be a content creator, I don't want to just make tutorials about cameras that then tell other people how to use cameras to create videos that are tutorials telling other people how to use cameras. It was kind of like this cyclical nature, and that content is needed. I think, Gerald Undone does a great job covering cameras and technical specs on like all things imaginable in the world of creation. But I really wanted myself personally to push myself to create content, meaningful content, and not that the other stuff isn't meaningful, but something that wasn't purely self-serving, wasn't just a, hey, here's how to be another YouTuber who makes content reviewing gear and cameras and lighting diagrams and that kind of stuff. That content is valuable, but I wanted to push myself to see if I could make something beyond that. And I'm hopefully, maybe that's what everyone's just doing. Instead of us all talking about how cool cameras are, or maybe everyone's using them and there's no need to read blogs because everyone's just happy with what they have. Nowadays, everyone's more or less shooting 4K or 8K. You got what you need. You've got shallow depth of field. You've got really good lens selection now. You've got good codecs. These hybrid mirrorless cameras are now shooting 422 10-bit. Good dynamic range, really great autofocus nowadays, depending on the camera system that you're using. All of the pieces have kind of evened out, leveled out. So if you like Sony, you like Sony. If you like Canon, you like Canon. If you like Lumix, you like Lumix. And it all just kind of works. And then you're left with, okay, what now? Well, go create, go make content. And so that's what I've been doing over the last 3 years. And it's funny how much, of course, with the other stuff that's been going over the last, 2 or 3 years, right? Like, I get it. It's just kind of the nature of everything. Everything kind of slowed to a halt. And now we're kind of kicking things back into gear. But hopefully during that time, you and everyone else has been taking that opportunity to do what we love. I assume if you're watching this, you probably love it, hopefully. I certainly love it. I like to film. I like to edit. I like to put stuff together. I like to make something new, something that didn't exist before. A moment in time that would have passed is captured, is documented, and then put together into some kind of new package. There's this really cool effect where whenever you take a picture of somebody or record a video and then you show it to them, it always has this unique perspective, right? Because the lens you were using, the camera you were shooting with, the frame rate, if you slow it down, there's an element that you're imparting onto the reality of the scene of what actually happened, the moment in time. You're imparting that style, that creative perspective onto that moment and capturing it, retaining it, and then you get to show it to other people. And I think that's really cool that we're able to do that nowadays, where in the past it was just, well, take a picture with your mind, with your eyes, try and remember it. Now you got a memory. We're able to take moments in time that would be memories and we're able to capture them and document them, but then in very different ways. So one shooter might prefer wide, wide angle looks, wider focal lengths. Another shooter might prefer longer focal lengths, and there's drastic differences between those two things, and you can show it to somebody and both images can be breathtaking, and they're very different, but they still capture the same moment of time. I think that's really, really cool that we're able to do that. And I don't know, it's just a special thing, bringing something new into the world, a new creation that didn't exist before. I really like that a lot, as opposed to, I don't know, any other jobs that are out there. So what else can we go through? So yeah, the blogs, they've kind of slowed to a crawl, but the technology, the hardware is phenomenal. DJI have been putting out great stuff. Mavic 3 came out a year or two ago, scooped up one of those. Then now they've got the Inspire 3 on the way. That's going to be pretty cool, incredibly expensive. Have you seen the price tag on this thing? Goodness gracious, it's $17,000. Whoo, $17,000. But full frame 8K, ProRes RAW, all this cool stuff, dual native ISO. You got some really cool stuff going on with this drone, but that's pretty steep for something that can just fall out of the air. Not saying that it's going to fall out of the air. I've never had a drone fall out of the air, but you could crash it and it could be human error, right? So I don't know. Certainly useful for some, but maybe not for many. Maybe you're more in the Mini 3 realm, which I really do have to complain here a little bit. I can't get away from it. The complaints, they always come to me. The Mini 3, okay? There's and I don't say a rule, but there's just this standard in films and movies. You don't use two characters with the same name or a similar sounding name. So you would never in a movie have like a Mike and a Mark, right? Two M names. You just wouldn't do that in a movie because it's confusing. You're like, was that Mike? Was it Mark? Human beings were kind of dumb. We need like Mike and John and Nick, but even that might be too close to Mike, right? We need different names, Trent or something like that, something different so we can differentiate and determine what's what and keep kind of everything contextual in our brains. So they have the Mini 3, but that really bugs me because they have a Mavic 3. And whenever I see Mini 3 and Mavic 3 online, my brain takes a second to just, wait, which one are they talking about? Oh yeah, the Mini 3. Okay, the Mavic 3. And I know it's stupid. I know it's a simple thing. It's a word. Mavic is different than Mini. I get it. But there's just something goofy. And here's the other thing. Here's the other bone. Now they have a Mavic 3 Classic. And what does Classic mean, you ask yourself? Well, I don't know. Let's go learn more. So the Mavic 3 Classic. This is not the Mavic 3 that I own that I bought a year or so ago. This is the Mavic 3 Classic. Well, what's the difference? Is mine the Mavic 3 Pro? No. Mine is the Mavic 3. That's it. Not the Mini 3, the Mavic 3. Now there's the Mavic 3 Classic, which does not have the additional zoom lens. So here we'll zoom in real close on this camera here. And you can see it doesn't have the split camera. If you're familiar with the Mavic 3, there's like an additional camera on top. I can pull it up here in a second. But yeah, the Mavic 3 Classic now is another option they have. And let's actually go see what this costs. This is cheaper. Of course it is, right? Because it's a lesser downgrade, but probably still a perfectly decent drone and does the job, I'm sure. It's probably great. So that's another option. If you're looking for a new upgrade to your drone, there's the Mavic 3 Classic now. And supposedly there's rumored to be a Mavic 3 Pro coming, but I don't know. I wouldn't hold your breath. What else do they have? The Inspire 3 now, the Mavic 3, the Mavic 3 Classic. Yeah, see, here's the Mavic 3, just the regular one, but this one has the split camera. Seeing is believing. All right, so I don't know. I always get bugged by brand choices. Oh wait, Mavic 3 Cine. Oh yeah, because that's the upgrade, right? You can pay more to get ProRes and some extra features unlocked. And I think it's actually quite expensive. What are these at now? So there's the Mavic 3, which is $2,000, but the Mavic 3 Combo, the Mavic 3 Cine Premium is $5,000. So yeah, that's where they really get you. But now there's the Mavic 3 Classic and then the Inspire 3 and the Mini 3. A little confusing, a little overwhelming. It's hard to keep track of this stuff. Same way I made a long time ago a breakdown of like the history of all the Red cameras, because I feel like Red is another one of those companies that just keeps making cameras with like very different names. It's hard to follow. Okay, is the Gemini, the Helium, the Dragon, which one is the newest? Which one is the best? Now there's the VistaVision, there's the V-Raptor 8K, but then there's like a V-Raptor 8K that's not VistaVision. It's Super 35. Like there's so much stuff that gets really confusing, and I don't know. I'm a much bigger fan of just keeping it simple. The like the simple days of like the 5D Mark II, and then there's the 5D Mark III and the 5D Mark IV. Granted, there was the 7D and the 6D, and they started adding all these variants to the to the ecosystem, but it is what it is, I guess. So anyway, I'd be curious to see what DJI has going on in it. DJI, that is one of my other pet peeves. DJI. I don't even know what it stands for. But they've been doing some cool stuff. And one thing actually we'll talk about a little bit later probably is the microphone. I use the DJI microphone along with the Mavic 3, which I'm trying to see, is it under specialized handheld? Where do they have their microphones? So they have the Action 3, the RS3. Oh, that was the other thing. Their gimbals, the RS, the RC, the Ronin 4D. Where are their mics? Here we go. DJI mic. It took me a little bit to find it on their site. I really like this thing. We'll talk about it later, but it's pretty cool, and I find it very useful. Blackmagic is the other company of note, I'd say, that I really enjoy their announcements every year. They always seem to have cool stuff. So I use the ATEM Mini for switching, live switching. They just ATEM Mini Pro. I think that's the one. They have so many versions. Again, just simplify, guys. Make it easy. Make it obvious. So let's go dig into the ATEM. Yeah, the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. Then there's ATEM SDI Extreme, Television Studio, lots of these. But you can do a lot with very little with just the ATEM Mini Pro. It's $300 and it does a great job. 4 HDMI inputs. You can do a lot with that. And there's a really cool app called Mix Effect that lets you do all sorts of extra stuff with these boards. That's very, very helpful. And that app it's $50 for the app. It's called Mix Effect. I think if you search ATEM on the App Store, it pops up. But it does a lot of cool things like you can automate a few things, which is how I use it. But Blackmagic always has really cool stuff. Ever since, man, gosh, it was like over a decade now that they announced what was the original cinema, the Blackmagic cinema camera. Now, of course, they've got the Ursa, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, the G2, which is like, this is old now. So I wonder if they'll update that this year. We'll see when that's coming. But yeah, the Pocket Cinema camera, and then they came with the G2. So I don't know. I've always really liked Blackmagic stuff. I just really like that they make stuff that works. It's one of the few companies where, you know, there's any system is going to have problems and quirks, but in general, the Blackmagic stuff just works the way you want it to. There's a lot of stuff with the ATEM board that I was like, I wonder if it can do this, and it did it right away. And I was like, oh man, that's perfect. I don't need to like troubleshoot this. I don't need to problem solve. It just does what I need it to do. That is awesome. And I find the cameras to be the same way. I think Blackmagic still has the best camera menu. Just the touch screen, it gives me exactly what I want. The Lumix is pretty good nowadays. Sony, even for their updates, is still not great. Canon is still not great in the camera menu. There's something about Blackmagic that they have really high-end stuff at affordable prices, and it just works the way you kind of want. It makes it super easy, which a lot of this stuff seems really complicated. When you see stuff like this and you go, oh man, that's a lot to deal with, to set up, and you end up using it and it's really intuitive and it's really streamlined. So I really appreciate their stuff. So I'm curious to see if they got anything new coming this year. I'll be looking forward to that. Probably checking out their booth tomorrow. We'll see what they got going on. Lumix. If you've been following my channel, you know I love the Lumix cameras. I've owned every GH camera except the 2 and the 3, but I used the 2. I never really touched the GH3, but from the GH1 all the way now to the GH6, which is what you're looking at right now, that's a GH6, streaming this. Lumix has just always had so to speak, always had my back in terms of the features, the what they offer. It's just fantastic products. And I really like Micro Four Thirds. And we'll talk a little bit more about why. But I got to complain first. Before I get to anything good, I got to complain. When you search Lumix, you might be thinking Lumix.com. Actually, nope. Lumix.com, go there. Let's wait for it. Oh, okay. In big bold red, this website is not the Panasonic website for Lumix camera. If you want to go to the Panasonic website, click here. So this is is this a bulb company? I don't know. So you go to the Panasonic website. Let's click over. All right, we're getting redirected to Panasonic. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Am I gonna in 8 seconds? Why do I have to wait 8 seconds? What did that link do to me? Did I get hacked or something? All right, so this isn't even the Lumix website that I'm trying to get to, so I'm actually have to go back anyway. But you go over to Panasonic. So let's actually go back. And if you want the Lumix website, good luck, because it's, which one is it? This is the one. Yes. All right. It's on the Panasonic domain, but this is the Lumix website. And they've had, it's their 20th anniversary. It's probably their 21st by now, because this is kind of old. I think this is from last year. They've had 20 years of this brand, and they don't have a proper website set up for it. Like, come on, guys. What are you doing? If you want people to know your cameras, stop confusing them. I've done this exact same rant before, and I'm doing it again because they still haven't updated it. Get a website for Lumix. Don't confuse people. Why am I on a Panasonic website? I think I've made the joke before, but it doesn't say Panasonic on the camera. It says Lumix. That I'm looking at it right now. It says Lumix. Get a proper website. Anyway, Lumix, they've got the new S5 Mark II. I haven't used it myself. Excited to at some point. Supposedly, it's got great autofocus. Supposedly. We'll see. I don't know. I can't confirm that myself, but apparently the autofocus is really good on the S5 Mark II. However, I think every other spec matches beat for beat the GH6. I don't think there's anything that I'm aware of that's, significantly in favor of the S5 Mark II, aside from, of course, it's full frame, okay, and that it's got the autofocus, the phase detect autofocus, right? We're finally, Panasonic, Lumix, whatever you want to call them, has finally embraced phase detect. Hooray, finally, after all this time, they got phase detect. Except when you go look at L mount, again, if you go to L mount, L rumors, right? You can see all the cool stuff for L mount. Be excited about L mount. There's a Sigma 23 1.4 lens got leaked. Cool. Some other stuff coming, more lenses, which is what L mount needs. And that's why I can't really get too excited for an S5 Mark II, because I'm in love with the Micro Four Thirds lenses that I have. So it's here. Well, let's just go through it. Why not? Let's go to Lumix and let's do the 10 to 25. The first one I bought. This lens is glorious. Okay. If you have a GH6, a GH5, a GH4, a G9, any Micro Four Thirds camera, this lens is glorious. 10 to 25. If you're full frame equivalent, that's a 20 to 50. Aperture's 1.7, so full frame equivalent to that is closer like an f4, okay? Which if you're shooting full frame, you say, oh my God, that's not shallow enough. Hold your horses, okay? If you're shooting full frame, remember, movies, cinema, film, none of it was shot full frame at like a 1.2, okay? That's like very specific portrait photography, really artsy stuff. It can be that shallow, but very few traditional Hollywood films, right? Nowadays, they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Because we've got full frame cameras that shoot at these crazy fast apertures, and they've got the perfect eye tracking autofocus. So yes, nowadays you're seeing probably a ridiculous amount of shallow depth of field, even more than when people first started with the 5D Mark II, because that's really what got it, kicked it off, right? The 5D Mark II, holy cow, is that thing shallow. And yeah, you could shoot like a 1.2, right? Because Canon had there's a couple 1.2 lenses. People even chase even faster. They're like, I need a 0.95 on my full frame camera. I need to be so shallow nothing is in focus. That's how people think. Trust me, when I say a 10 to 25 1.7 is shallow enough for basically everything you would ever need to do. Now, if you really like the super duper ultra shallow depth of field, then yeah, you can't. But this lens is so freaking sharp, and it's such a powerful zoom range. 10 to 25. It's big, it's heavy, it's expensive. I get it. It's all, but it is a glorious lens. I love this lens. You combine that, like let's say you got 2 cameras, well, you need 2 lenses. So get the Lumix 25 to 50 1.7. Not stabilized, but you don't need it if you're shooting with like a GH6 and it's got the internal stabilization. Works totally great. Don't even need dual IS. Don't need that dual image stabilization. The 25 to 50 1.7. This lens, again, expensive, big, heavy, bulky. I get it. Beautiful, razor sharp images, and such a useful zoom range. If you're thinking of the full frame equivalent, that'd be like a 50 to 100 full frame equivalent. Very, very, very nice. Now take that, add the trifecta, the 50 to 200. Holy cow, this thing is a monster. 200 millimeter focal length, stabilized. That's like a 400 full frame equivalent. This thing isn't that big. It's even, there's a deal right now on Amazon. It's telling me. That's probably a lie, but maybe it $1,500. It's expensive. I know it's expensive. It's a 2.8 to an f4. You don't need to shoot. If you're shooting at 200 millimeters, you don't need to be shooting at a 1.8 at 200 millimeters. F4 is plenty. It's great. It's beautiful. You combine these 3 lenses, the 50 to 200 with the, let's go back again, the 25 to 50, and again, combine it with the 10 to 25. If you those 3 lenses, you can do literally anything. from the widest, not technically the widest. You can go obviously much wider, but as wide as you reasonably want to go, because 20 to me, 20 is that perfect focal length, 20 full frame. So 10 on this lens, right? 10 on this lens, 20 millimeter full frame equivalent. It's that perfect wide enough that it looks wide, but it doesn't get distorted like a 16 would on a full frame camera. It just looks so good. These 3 lenses. There is nothing like these 3 lenses for L mount full frame. So I can't get a Lumix S5 Mark II because these lenses won't work with it. And there's no full frame equivalent. Yes, there's a 20 to 60, but it's a variable aperture and I don't have to deal with that. I want these lenses. They're keeping me. I'm stuck. And guess what? I've said this before too. But when you're putting a video out there, the people watching, they don't care how big the sensor was. They don't. They care, can I see it? Does it look good? Can I hear it? Is the story good? Is the acting good? Is the writing good? No one watching any content is ever concerned about what size was the sensor. Never. Never. You might be curious. A filmmaker might be like, I wonder, how did they do that? What camera were they using? And they will usually look it up. But no average viewer is actually concerned that something was micro four thirds or full frame or super 35 or VistaVision or any combination in between. Even anamorphic, for as cool as it is, and we all love anamorphic, a lot of people are often like, why does it look like that? It looks weird. Well, it looks like anamorphic. So, Lumix, fellow citizen said, I took your advice and have been saying Lumix. As long as Lumix, but even that, how do you know how to say it? If I saw it, I'd say Lumix, honestly. No, I probably wouldn't. I'd say Lumix, but it's Lumix. It's what it says on the camera. I'm looking at it right now. It's a Lumix, it's a Lumix, it's a Lumix. It's not a Panasonic. Gotta make sure we say that. Hold them accountable. Let's get them a website. Everyone, let's get Panasonic a website. All right, anyway, so that's why, Lumix, I'm excited for what they got going on. I'm hoping the technology comes to a GH7 or that they expand the lens selection for L mount full frame. Give me a comparable, 10 to 25. So give me a 20 to 50 that is like a 2.8, let's say. A 20 to 50 2.8 full frame, perfect. What they actually have, Lumix, it's the 20 to 60. What is it? Where's that? Yeah, it's a 3.5 to 5.6. Decent, kit lens, sure. I know this comes with a lot of the cameras, affordable, $500, great. But I'm just too in love with the GH6 and those Leica lenses. That combination, just too good. Anyway, we got Lumix Rode, another brand I like, company I like. They make good stuff. They've got this new wireless Me, which seems to be the way a lot of equipment is going these days. Let's get it to the podcasters. Let's get it to the vloggers. Let's get it to the content creators. Let's get it to the YouTubers, which is great because then we can all benefit, right? I'd consider myself in that bucket, a YouTuber, a content creator, a podcaster, a streamer. Those aren't bad words. I think those are great words. Wireless Me makes audio recording easy for content creators. Excellent. And I think it's not on here, unfortunately. Let's see if maybe they'll update it tomorrow. But I think over on Instagram, I can't show you because I'm not logged in, but this post here, this purple one, the biggest product announcement ever. They got some kind of charging case for the wireless Go 2s, which I can show you real quick. So I have a set of the wireless Go 2s. Sorry, this is gonna be loud. It's a Velcro pouch. That's one thing it's fine as a case, this little Velcro pouch they give you. But a hard shell case or a little bit something a little sturdier would be nicer. So these are the wireless Go 2s. I have them. They work fine. I have had issues with some like phasing where they kind of like get out of sync and you got to turn them off and turn them back on, and then the audio quality. It's not that they lose connection. I've never had an issue where, with it when they're within distance, they operate as expected. But they'll kind of get out of phase is the only way I can describe it, or where there'll be some kind of interference or distortion that doesn't go away until you reset them. I don't know if it's a channel issue, an interference of some kind, but they get kind of like warbly. I have to turn them off and turn them back on. And then they end up working fine again for a little bit. But I've had more reliability with some other microphones I'll show you in a second. But these are the wireless Go 2s. They're fine. They're great. They work. They do the job. The case, like I said, would be nice if it was a harder shell, but they're fine. And nice because they have the built-in microphone. Of course, you clip it on. You see that all the time, right? People wearing the microphone where you can run a mic to it. But the one thing that I don't actually like about this all that much, it only has one output on the receiver. And this isn't a common problem. I understand a lot of people have unique situations. So that's why I'm just sharing this information with you, because maybe it's helpful for you if you're looking at getting these or you're looking at something similar. Check. Because often you might find yourself wanting to monitor with headphones the actual output at the same time as running it to a camera or audio recording device of some kind. You can't do that on these. You only have the one, 1/8 inch stereo out. Whereas the Comica mic packs that I had before this, and I still use and still have, I use those quite a bit still, have both. They have two outputs. So one downside to these Rodes, along with that, warbly interference. But anyway, I was going to show you, they've got what looks to be like a charging case. So I have that with the DJI, not DJI, DJI. They have the charging case. So the microphones sit right in it, and it works really, really well because you can, maybe you have two locations in the same day or something like that. You take the microphone off, put it in the case. As you travel to the next location, it's recharging along the way. These Rodes, you have to plug into USB-C. That's the connector. And it looks like they have some kind of case coming for it where you like nest these in. But it seems kind of like a after the fact solution where, you're plugging into the USB-C in this case, whereas the DJI ones are they're like the, I don't know what this connector is actually called, but they're becoming more popular now, where it's, like the little flat metal pins, and it just sets in there and it kind of recharges. I have some sunglasses that work the same way. You put them in the case and they recharge while they're in transit, which is really helpful as opposed to having to plug stuff in. So Having a hard case, the DJI ones are more expensive, but having the hard case, having it be rechargeable, and then this is just one USB-C on the back, you charge the case and you can keep going from there. So I prefer this. I've had less issues with the DJI ones. They are smaller as well. It has the two outputs, the headphone and the out. This, the size comparison is, they're both, lightweight, but I don't know. The DJI ones just, I prefer very, very small. They also have a clip as well as like a magnet, which can come in handy. And it's like so strong, this magnet, that I can hardly get it off sometimes. But, you can kind of clip it between clothes, put it on things. I don't know. Magnets are just fun. Magnets, how do they work? So yeah, the DJI ones is my current preferred audio setup for wireless content capture. It seems to work better, but I do have the Rodes. They're kind of a backup. They work fine, but it's cool to see they'll be, like I said, I can't actually get into that post right now because I'm not logged in, but it's this one if you want to see their little teaser. And of course you'll see all this stuff tomorrow. So, or now, depending on when you're watching it. But yeah, I like Rode stuff. They always have cool things. They've got maybe a new pod mic. They have a cool microphone. It's not this microphone. This is an MXL. But they have a cool podcasting microphone called the Pod Mic. It looks like there's maybe an update to that. And might be some other cool stuff. But I don't see, they got the Rodecaster Pro 2. I don't see the Pod Mic update on their site yet. So maybe that's also coming tomorrow. But I'd say check their Instagram if there's something that if you like Rode and you want to see what they have going on. Let me check here. Okay. Let's see. Fellow Citizen says L-mount equivalent would be the S Pro 24-70 combined with the Sigma FPL crop zoom could go from 24 field of view to 170 and beyond as the Leica colors. So, if I'm reading that correctly, the difference would be is that 24 is not as wide as 20. And that difference, it's funny, on the long end of the focal lengths, right, the difference between like an 85 and a 90 or even 100 is not as drastic as like a 24 and a 20 to a 16. On the wider end, those, even one increment, a 9 to an 8 to a 7, it just gets significantly wider really, really quick. It's almost exponential or logarithmic, or I don't know, one of the two. So the difference to me between a 24 and a 20 is significant and worth. I think there's Sony has a 20, there's a 20 prime that I really like. I don't have it anymore. I sold it. But I don't know, 20, if you're on full frame, 20 millimeters looks really nice, and on micro four thirds it's like 10. So I kind of like that look. Bam came back. I just found a deal for the 50 to 200 2.8 for 800 Canadian. Scooping up this week. I do with I invested in these zooms, and you mentioned though I've got all of them in primes, but I'm willing to swap all the time. Yes. Get 3 good zooms, and this is a situation where it's not just me, right? I'm multiple shooters. So there's usually 2 or 3 of us on any given project. 3 lenses, we never cross over, right? 10 to 24, 24 to 50, 50 to 200. Theoretically, if someone's at the longest of the wide and the widest of the long, there's the same focal length, which can be advantageous in certain situations, but there's a very, very minimal overlap, right? The wide is clearly a wide, mid-range is clearly mid-range, and long is clearly long. It's not like, someone's got a 25 to 50 and then someone else has like a 35 to 70, where there's a lot more of that overlap. And having lenses that match and have similar functionality to where we can both be shooting. So in a 10 to 25 and the 25 to 50, we can both be at the same aperture. We can match both color, aperture, basically everything. There's cameras as well, shooting on GH6s. So it's very, very helpful to have that level of compatibility where I can't say never, but I hate to mismatch, right? I would not shoot Lumix and Sony for the same project. It's just too much of a nightmare to have to deal with later. I'm sure there's people who have figured it out and it works for their workflow, but for my workflow, for speed, for efficiency, for making content, for focusing on the content and not on the workflow, I just want it simple, efficient and simple. Shoot it Lumix or Sony, just pick one and have similar lenses, similar bodies. Don't shoot something Vlog and something else Cinelike V and try and match them later. Just get everything on the same page. We do white balance. Don't dial in your white. This is another tip. So if you dial in on one camera, and I should make a whole video about this because it's that important. But if you dial in on a camera, as most people do, so you can use the preset white balances, like the sun, the shade, the light bulb, right? There's the presets on most of these cameras. So the sunlight on one camera, and you have a similar camera. So let's use the GH6, for example. I put it on the sun on this camera, sunlight on this camera. The cameras themselves are slightly different because they are two different cameras. The lenses are also slightly different. So even though you're using the same white balance, it's not the same. The glass is slightly different. The sensor is slightly different. Same thing even if you dial in your white balance. Oh, we're shooting at 5500 Kelvin. 5500 on this camera, 5500 on this camera. Different lenses, different bodies, different filters in some cases. It's going to look different. Even though you're both at 5500 on the white balance, it still doesn't match. And those are those like little fights you end up in post-production where like one camera's a little green, one camera's a little magenta, one camera's warmer, one camera's cooler. Why aren't they the same? We had the same white balance. Why aren't they the same? If you take a custom white balance, so it could be off of a white wall, it could be off of a white piece of paper, you could get a proper gray card, take a white balance that way. If you both white balance off the same card, so camera A and camera B, white balance off the same, sorry, I hit the microphone. White balance off the same card, now you have true white balance match because what looks white to this camera also looks white to this camera, even though they're different bodies, different sensors, different lenses, they'll still match. You have to take it under the same lighting conditions, from the same angle, from the same distance. You have to be as same as possible. But if you do that, you'll have much better. You basically don't have to color correct between the two cameras because they just match. It's the best thing ever. I highly recommend it. So if you're white balancing by like dialing it in or setting a preset and saying like, you're 5500, you're 5500, cool, we're both the same. You're not the same. You have to take a custom white balance when you have two cameras. If you're just doing it by yourself, you're fine using a preset or getting close enough. If that's how you want to operate, you still should take a custom white balance because that's going to give you actual accuracy. But if you're in a rush and you want to use the sunlight preset, you can totally do that with one camera. But if you have two cameras, take the time, the extra 5 seconds, 10 seconds, take a custom white balance. It's actually really easy on the Lumix cameras. They make it super simple. The Canon cameras, I haven't tested on the RF, but I know on the 5D Mark II, it's kind of a pain. You have to take a picture of something white and then use that picture as a reference in the menus. It's really clunky. I think the Sonys are maybe a little bit better in terms of custom white balance, but I think those Sonys work just like the Lumix do, where you just take a picture, not take a picture. You point the camera what you want, you say this is white, and you hit set, and it does it for you. It's really easy, super simple. Could try the new Art 20, the same crop function, feature will be used more. So there's this crop feature, which I'm not super familiar with. So if it's on the Sigma FP, I don't know much about it. But I also don't like, I can't say this for sure, but I don't know. There's something, I do so much photography and video that I would hate to be relying on a feature that crops in for video because I don't need that resolution, but then not have that solution for photography as well. So I don't know exactly how it works, but I'm assuming from how you've written it that it would be hey, video only needs 4K and we've got all these megapixels, let's just zoom in, which can work for video, but you're also magnifying the noise, which one of the benefits of having those extra megapixels is that the noise is visually smaller because it's shrunken down. If you zoom in on it, the noise gets bigger. That's kind of one of those things with the red cameras. I think everyone should know this at this point in time, but the red cameras, when they're cropping in on the sensor so like let's say it's an 8K sensor, if it's a 4K crop or a 2K crop for the higher frame rates, the noise is a lot more apparent because you're cropping on the sensor and the noise is getting bigger. I'm kind of speaking loosely with my terms here, but it just looks uglier in some situations. Now, granted, I haven't shot on the newest red camera, so I don't know exactly how it works there. But in general, when you're shooting raw and you're cropping in, it'd be just like cropping in on a photo, which most people don't like to do because the noise gets bigger when you do that. I'm just looking through the comments here. I'm praying for a GH with the new phase autofocus released this year. I agree. Smash, this question may be off topic, but you didn't ask the question. Oh, here, I see it's later. 3 play buttons in the background. What 3 channels do you have? There's actually 4. So there's 3 other channels. So not one of those play buttons is from this channel, obviously. Someone made a comment on my recent video saying that I'm sub-botting. Which is funny, because the 10,000 subscribers are all ghosts at this point. This channel has been around forever, and I haven't made content as consistently as other people have. So yeah, I have 10,000 subscribers, but they're not active viewers. They're not certainly you all. Maybe, I don't know, maybe someone's out there watching this who's a long-time listener. But yeah, no, the play buttons are not for this channel. I actually have a video coming out next week, so I won't spoil it. But if you want to know the answer to that question, I made a video talking about the play buttons. And there's a 4th, so it's not just 3, it's 4. And none of them are this channel, obviously. It's only 10,000 subscribers, and they're from forever ago. So no, I'm not sub-botting. I'm not paying for subscribers. They're just from forever ago. And that's what happens when you have a YouTube channel for this long and you don't use it. You have 10,000 subscribers and, you get 50 views, that kind of thing. Let's see. Reading some more comments. Thank you guys for, engaging in the chat. That's nice. It gives me something to talk about that's not directly related to NAB. Handy things about having Lumix in both Micro Four Third and L mount, that they can get close to one another more easily. That is true. Yes. So if you have a GH6 and you're looking for another camera and you want the S5 Mark II, totally valid. There's one thing about Lumix, that their cameras are very compatible, with each other. I really wish I did that on my recent MV music video shoot with 2 cameras, run and gun. Be like that sometimes. Got to bring a white card around more. White card, very, very helpful. A white wall works just as well. And in some cases, it can actually be better. Here's an example. If you're filming in an environment where you want it to look very clean, very sterile, maybe like a laboratory, doctor's office, medical facility, something you want to look very, very clean and pristine, and the walls are white, hopefully they're white, if that's the vibe they're going for, white balance off the wall, because guaranteed the paint is not actually white. It's usually some like off shade of white. If you white balance off the wall, it's going to make the wall look white, and it will give you that clean, sterile look. Now, not every place has white walls. Then you got to find something else. A piece of paper usually works pretty well. Something to avoid is usually cars. A white car to another white car can be very different color-wise, and the reflections on cars make it more of a challenge because the color varies drastically from the angle you're looking at the paint. Piece of paper works well. Napkins work well. I've even white balanced off of a salt shaker in a restaurant before. Salt is white. You can white balance off a salt shaker in a restaurant. Totally fine. That works. Best case scenario is the white card. But the white card gets you in trouble sometimes when the walls don't look white, because you're getting that true white balance for the space, and then you end up showing the imperfection of reality, if that makes any sense. A lot of times you're going for a very specific look and you want it to look a certain way. And there are times where you would want to make the walls look white, and there's other times where you'd want them to look off-white. And one of them is actual reality, and the other one is your kind of creative vision of reality. So usually it's just about looking around and finding something white. What are other random white things I've white balanced off of? Salt shaker, that's about the the wildest it's gotten, I think. A paper plate, but that's kind of like a piece of paper. There's usually almost always something white. A t-shirt, sometimes works if it's a white t-shirt. I've done that once before. Yeah, usually the walls, the ceiling. You just want to make sure that if you got two cameras, that you're picking the same spot, because that can be different. One wall can be slightly different than the other. One spot on the ceiling could be a different color than the other. So it's just about that consistency and getting it dialed in. Only the Sigma FPL, not the FP. It does function for photography. Oh, all right, good to know, fellow citizen. Thank you for that. Ironically, the Sigma works better for the still image inline crop than Lumix. Cool. I don't know much about the Sigma FP or the FPL for that matter. Seems like a cool camera that everyone was excited about, but I don't know a lot of people that use them. Smash Time Productions. I have 100K and mine is on the way, so I'm interested in your other channels. Come back next week, Wednesday. Well, this week, technically, right? It's Sunday. There will be a video. I outline all of it. It'll take you through all the details. That's like 1,000 subs, LOL. I don't know what you're talking about. Bam came back. Luckily, I had notification on, or I'd have lost track. Good tip. A salt shaker. A stormtrooper. Yes, so a stormtrooper. However, it's going to be reflective. So oddly enough, we were filming in a costume shop where they had a stormtrooper outfit, and that would work, but may run into a similar situation with the car and the paint being more reflective, being more of an issue. But I don't know. I've never actually done it. But I haven't worn a stormtrooper outfit myself, but I've been in the vicinity. We were on a shoot where someone dressed up as a stormtrooper. So I think that's it. Oh, last company I want to talk about, QNAP. These are great. If you don't know about QNAP, look them up. I don't really have time to go into the full detail. It's not these massive servers. You don't have to do that. You can just do one of those boxes. Oh, it just disappeared. Let's bring it back up. One of these boxes. It's desktop storage, more or less, but it's multi-bay, right? So it's an enclosure for all your hard drives. If you are using, let's see, which view do I want? There we go. If you're using multiple hard drives, you've got the 3 LaCie drives, 2 Seagates, you got some SanDisks, SSDs, hard drive, you got all this mix and match, knock it off. For a while, I was doing the Western Digital RAID enclosures, just the 2 drives, and I'd have a few of those. Knock it off. Don't do that. QNAP is the way, okay? A NAS, Network Attached Storage. It's a game changer, and it's expensive for the upfront, like startup costs to get it going, but the actual costs are on par with any other hard drive solution. Like hard drives just kind of cost what they cost. Of course, they always come down in price, and then they get bigger, and then they're more expensive, and then they come down in price. It's just the way it goes. But in general, hard drives, whether they're hard drives or solid state drives, they're all more or less the same price. And so when you have a QNAP or a NAS setup, it saves you so many headaches. You never have to think about like, well, which hard drive is that on? Oh no, something happened over here. They're not rated properly, or I lost my files or something like that. You can do some stuff. You can attach, you can basically connect it over the internet if you want, but you don't have to. It basically just works as a massive hard drive, but you can set it up so for it either being RAID 5 or RAID 6. So, and then there's a RAID 10 and there's some other RAID configurations you could do, but RAID 5 is usually pretty good. Don't quote me on that. There's much smarter people than I who will tell you all the pros and cons of RAID 5 versus RAID 6, and you can go down a deep, dark rabbit hole on all the RAID configurations. But in general, it's rated, and it's all of your stuff in one spot. So you can have 100 terabytes of storage in a box. They can sit in your office, they can sit on your desk, they can, it's not massive. It's not a server room. And it's fast and it works. Multiple machines can access it all at the same time, right? If you have it set up with, some kind of Cat 5, Cat 6, Ethernet connections between all the computers, it just works so much better. And it's something that I haven't made a video about before, but it's the most NAB thing I could think of, because everything else is like content creator digital, right? But like NAB, this is the QNAP, like that's what NAB is for. It's that kind of level of sophistication. And it seems like it's a broadcast or a professional industry thing, but like any YouTuber should still do it. Any home content creator, digital artist should still have some kind of NAS, network attached storage. So QNAP is the ones I like. There's another company, Synology. So I might stop by. I know QNAP has a booth at NAB, so I might stop by there tomorrow and check it out, see if they have anything new. And it is like the most IT, right? Like nothing has a name. It's all numbers and letters and SKUs, and there's like so many variants and all the different configurations. It's kind of a minefield, but when you find one that works and you can kind of filter through all that and you say, okay, well, which one do I get, right? I just need like eight hard drives in a box. Great. Go with that one. And change your life, change your workflow. It's so worth it. It's incredible what you can do with these. And it just makes things so much easier. The other thing that's super, super helpful, Lucid Link. If you have ever wanted to edit from the cloud, edit remote, hey, I'm sick of sending SD cards, compact flash in the mail. I'm sick of sending hard drives with UPS. I'm sick of driving to meet to drop something off. Lucid Link is incredible. It works just like a hard drive attached to your computer, but it's in the cloud. And I can't say enough good things about it. You just have to like use it. It's almost like magic, kind of like seeing is believing. Test it out. It's really, really incredible technology, and it works just like a hard drive, but mounted to the cloud. Dropbox doesn't do it the same way. Google Drive, cloud storage nonsense, iCloud, none of it works the way you want it to work. Lucid Link works the way you want it to work. It's that good. You put files in it, and it's like a hard drive, but you can access them from anywhere, and it's incredible. The best thing. I can't say enough good things about Lucid Link. Which kind of brings me to where I want to go for the future and what I'm actually most excited about. But I'm going to check the chat here one more time. I have a GH5S and 3 Sony cameras. Your channel makes me want to keep my Lumix on hand. Keep up the great work. Oh, thank you. My Ghost subs, all from 10 years ago. Yes, the Ghost subs. Raiders of the Lost Archive, absolutely. Seagate external drives. Yeah, so go QNAP, go Lucid Link, do both. It's a game changer. It's these two things. So QNAP, of course, for the local storage, that's your primary, working environment. Of course, you can have a backup offsite somewhere else if you want to go to those links, which I probably do recommend. But Lucid Link is that cloud remote workflow that you've probably always imagined. Wouldn't it be great if I could just, edit from anywhere, access my files from anywhere? That's Lucid Link, and it just works. It's great. And it's actually not that expensive. It's pretty reasonably priced. Nothing crazy. So let's talk about the future and what I'm actually most excited about. Last question. What exactly is NAB? That's not what I want to talk about. That's just a question that popped up in the chat from Smash Time Productions. NAB, to go back, that's how this started, but I'll go back. NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters. It says so down here at the bottom. National Association of Broadcasters. Okay? Started, let's actually go look it up, because NAB Wikipedia, I think, is where I saw it and did some research once upon a time. Not the National Australia Bank. No. Not the New American Bible. No. National Association Broadcasters. All right, here we go. NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, is a trade association and lobby group representing the interests of commercial and non-commercial over-the-air radio and television broadcasters in the United States. The NAB represents more than 8,300 terrestrial radio and television stations, as well as broadcast networks. So, I talked about this earlier in the stream, but got its start in radio, and you think broadcast, over the air, that type of thing. But it's so much of it now has become digitized in the internet, World Wide Web era that we find ourselves in. So they have on the Wikipedia article, digital transition. In 2005, the NAB, together with the Association for Maximum Service Television Stations, Inc., MSTV, commenced development of a prototype high-quality, low-cost digital to analog converter box for terrestrial digital television reception. The result of this project was a specification for the converter box, which was then adopted by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration as a technical requirement for eligible converter boxes for the administration's digital to analog converter box coupon program. So if I'm reading that correctly, and if that is what I think it is, there was a period of time, right, a little bit after 2005, where's the big switch? The rabbit ears, the old rabbit ears wouldn't work anymore. It had to be digital, and you had to get the new antenna, and which still works, by the way. A lot of people don't know this, but you can still watch TV for free over the air. They're digital antennas. You can buy them on Amazon. You can get them at Best Buy and Walmart, I'm pretty sure. And you can watch free television. So whenever someone's asking you, how do I watch the Super Bowl? How do I watch the Oscars? How do I watch the Grammys? That's not streaming on Netflix. You can buy I think they're probably like $50 now with the way prices are going. I think they're about $50. You can get a digital antenna, you can plug it in your TV, and if you're in the right spot and you have the right setup, you can see your local channels just like you could 20 years ago. With streaming and Roku and all the set-top boxes now and everyone cutting cable and how do I watch stuff, you still can get free TV over the air. I think PBS is still a thing you can watch for free. I can't say I do this all that often, but every once in a while when the Super Bowl comes around, when something, is on television, that's kind of how I do it. Because I cut cable years ago, probably over a decade now. Free TV campaign, gatherings, censorship, NAB awards. All right, so anyway, that's NAB. The NAB show is there once a year. Actually, it's not once a year. They have a couple NAB. There's NAB Vegas, which seems to be the biggest one, but then they have NAB New York, maybe? There's a few NABs. NAB shows, I should say, because NAB is the Association of Broadcasters. NAB show is the kind of convention, conference, exhibits, all that thing. And they are now celebrating 100 years of NAB. 100 years of NAB or NAB show? I don't know that, actually. Let's see. What did it say on Wikipedia there? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. 100 years. Anyway. The future. Let's talk about the future. What I'm most excited about is not cameras, is not lenses. Of course, they'll get better. It's not microphones, it's not lights. I should have mentioned aperture. This is an aperture light right here lighting me right now. Really like aperture lights. Those are great. Everything's becoming affordable. It's becoming accessible. It's having competitive features, 4K, 10-bit, 422, 60 frames, 120 frames, autofocus, shallow depth of field, right? All these things are becoming very accessible, very affordable, where pretty much everyone's on the same playing field hardware-wise. We've spent the last 10 years going from a world of 1080p. So when did the 5D Mark II come out? That would have been 2007, 2008, something like that, the 5D Mark II. It changed everything. DSLR revolution. You had people like Vincent LaForêt putting videos on the internet that were cinematic not for the first time. There were people who were kind of hacking it together before, but the 5D Mark II made it much easier, much more accessible, affordable, right? Accessible. But there was like all that inconvenience of like, it's only 1080. There's lots of moire. There's the aliasing. It is like, it looks, yes, it's shallow depth of field, but there's these problems. The codec's not great. It's kind of hard to edit. And slowly over the last 10, 15 years, that has all been evened out. Now everyone's got 4K. We've got all these great features, right? We got wireless audio that just works and it's tiny. This DJI microphone is basically nothing. Hardware, we're solid. Everyone's got great stuff. There are people who want 8K or 12K or 20K, probably 16K, right? If you're doing some crazy LED wall and you need the highest resolution possible, yeah, you want those things. But that's much more niche. I think everyone right now, at least, is pretty content with 4K for the most part, because people are watching on their phones. They're streaming over the internet, and it's all compressed anyway. So what does it really matter, right? So we've got 4K, we've got the good codecs, we've got the hardware that can do it at an affordable price where, yeah, it'll cost you $1,000, $2,000, but it's nothing like it used to be, where it used to be like $100,000 for one camera. And that's before you got batteries or anything else. Which, speaking of batteries, I do really like this. This is the Anton Bauer Titan Base battery. This thing's awesome. It's got USB out on the side, P-tap or D-tap, whatever you call that. It's got 3 of those. So what I do, I put this under the camera. I power the camera. Actually, the camera's running off of its internal battery, but I'm recharging it through USB. So USB feeds the camera, keeps that powered, and then the P-tap or D-tap, whatever you call it, powers the monitor. And it's all off of like one battery that's, pretty low profile. Super cool battery. Anyway, I said battery, made me think of it, wanted to show it. Other things sitting next to it. Easy upgrade. If you want to make better quality content, just get a good diffusion filter. So everyone likes the black Pro Mist. It's fine. I like it, but I prefer the black satin, honestly. So Tiffin, black satin, you only need like 1/8 or 1/4. Around that range is sufficient filtration, and it'll increase the quality of your content. Like, I don't want to say exponentially, but basically exponentially. It just takes the edge off a video, softens up the highlights, softens up the skin, gives nice bloom and glow to everything. It transforms your footage. So highly recommend a good diffusion filter of some kind. My preference is black satin, but black Pro Mist is also a great choice. Industry standard. Anyway, that's all the hardware stuff we've got. But everyone now, the future is AI. ChatGPT, Google Bard is the other. It's a weird thing. Google Bard. Google Bard is Google's, I've never said it out loud. It's kind of ridiculous sounding. Is Google's AI assistant ChatGPT clone or competitor. This is where we're at now. There's Stable Diffusion. There's Midjourney. There's all this cool AI art and, stuff coming, and people are freaking out and losing their minds. And what does this mean for artists? Are they going to disappear? Are they going to be, everyone's going to be out of a job? Is this, the end of creativity as we know it? And I don't really think that's the case. I think anytime you look at the future and it's the doom and gloom scenario, it's usually not quite that. It's just change. Things are different in the future than they were in the past, and for good reason. It's how it is now compared to 100 years ago when NAB started. Things are very different now. We're not in a world of radio and television signals anymore, and I think we're all very thankful for that. But that probably did put some people out of their jobs over the years. The industry has changed and evolved. Things have slowed and died, and new things have grown. It's the circle of life, if you're a fan of The Lion King. The future is clearly AI, and I'm very thankful that it's finally making an impact on the software side of things, because hardware has been great. If you've been following cameras for the last 10 to 15 years, it's been a heyday of technology and affordability, and even LED lighting has just made so many incredibly good changes for the industry. And on the software side of things, Premiere is more or less the same as it's always been for the last 10 to 15 years. Same as Final Cut was before that. Non-linear editing is more or less the same. It gets faster. They do improve it year over year, but photo editing, Photoshop, some of these things are more or less all the same as they always have been. And the problem with that is that the content demands of 2023 and beyond are so high that we still have this incredibly slow bottleneck when it comes to creating the content that people expect, that they demand. Live streaming has filled a gap in that, certainly, where there's people going live every day now. Any type of creator, anyone you want to see, there's a live stream of it. You can watch people playing games, you can watch people doing all sorts of stuff. And if they're good at their job, it's entertaining and it's worth watching. Social media, people are posting every day, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or wherever. Constantly bombarded with content. Podcasts, very, very popular. But on the software side, that post-production workflow element it is, from my perspective, still the slowest, most cumbersome part of the process. And I think that's where AI actually solves a lot of problems. There is so much tedious, mundane, unnecessary work that still has to be done by individual people just to get something from raw footage, raw assets to polished final deliverable. AI is starting to bridge that gap. And it will change jobs. People might lose jobs and they might transition to other ones. And I'm hopeful, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I think it will actually make it feasible to deliver the content that people expect nowadays. Social media is so disposable. There's so many people consuming content every single day. There's so many people creating content every single day, and it is all basically garbage. I don't mean that in necessarily a bad way, but I hope you can understand that it's pretty much filler. It's fluff. It's pointless. It's in one ear, out the other. You see it, you forget it. I guarantee you, if you try and think right now of anything you saw on Instagram yesterday, forget about it. You can't pull. What did you see on TikTok a week ago? You don't remember. Very few of these videos or pieces of content stick with you. Even podcasts. We listen to hours and hours and hours of podcasts. And after all of it, you maybe have like one or two little, interesting tidbits or factoids that you remember. But for the most part, all of it is conversational. It's like talk radio. That's the other thing I find funny about podcasts. People are so excited about podcasts and how new they are. And it's basically just talk radio in a slightly new format. There's nothing all that new about it. It's conversational. It's what we're doing here. You're just listening to me talk, and I'm just rambling, filling the air with my voice so there's no dead air, because God forbid there's any dead air. AI can be the solution to the content demands that we have nowadays. If you are a creator and you are expected to be on every platform every day making content, it is not worth any human being's time to actually make that much content. It's not worth a human being's time. Have software do it. Have AI do it. You need 10 social media posts for the next, 10 days. Click a button and have AI do it. Why would you pay a graphic designer? Why have someone put hours of their time and energy into something that shows up in a feed for half a second? It is so pointless. I had this thought looking at a magazine, because they still exist out in the world, right? Magazines still exist. Photographers take pictures that make the cover of magazines, and there are so many magazines that they just are in the garbage. They go in the trash. They're relevant for a month or a week, and that's it. So much of our content and like digital media is like far, far accelerated beyond a magazine. So there's just so much demand for content, whether it's magazines, social media, wherever, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, all the streaming platforms. There's so much demand for content that you need AI and software to actually lighten the load, to take the burden off of these people who are working like crazy hours making nonsense, making garbage, making filler, making fluff, making junk food. McDonald's automates the way they make hamburgers because it's not worth having a Michelin star chef make them. It's just not worth it. It's how fast can I get it out that drive-through window? Someone's here, they're hungry, they want a burger. Let's automate it, right? They're shipped in, everything's automated. It's all the logistics are figured out. So humans don't really have to waste their time making amazing cheeseburgers for people who are just shoveling them into their face as they drive, to their next meeting or drive down the road to wherever they're going. AI can be that solution for creatives in the content space. Oh, I need to write a post for social media because I have to write something, because I have to have keywords, because it has to be SEO friendly, and I've got to have AI do it. Have ChatGPT write you a description or a title or a thumbnail, whatever. There's so many people now working for the machines. They're working for the algorithm. They're following all the rules dictated by You got to post this much. You got to post on these days. You got to post at this time. You got to have these keywords. You got to do this, this, and that. And humans are putting all their effort into satisfying the machines. Screw that. Have the machines do it. The machines can talk to the machines. If you need keywords for the algorithm, here you go. And it didn't take me any time. I had ChatGPT do it. So I think that's the future. And I don't think it's going to be this year at NAB. Maybe there'll be some interesting, stuff behind the scenes, but I don't think it'll be at the forefront yet. But I think next year and into the future, why can't Premiere edit a video for me? Why do I still have to do so much of the work myself? Can it detect faces? Doesn't it know when people are talking? Can it kind of deduce what they're saying with the transcriptions? How about it just starts piecing together a rough assembly or, a select sequence? Do most of that work for me in a blink of an eye. Why waste my time combing through hours of footage when the computer already knows all the words that are spoken, when they're said, who's saying them, what shots are stable, what shots are in focus, what shots are exposed properly? These are all things that a computer could tell. And leave it up to me to be the storyteller, the final craftsman that comes in at the end and puts it together and makes it exactly what I want, but get all that junk out of my way. I don't have time to comb through all that footage for a social media video that's going to be gone, in less than 24 hours for, a story or a reel or a post. It's just not worth it. So that's why I'm excited for the future. Adobe's doing really cool things now with processing audio. I don't know if you've seen this, but I should show you because apparently I thought it was common knowledge at this point. Vocal enhancer. Enhanced speech. This is incredible. So Adobe, you have to sign in to use it. You upload a clip of terrible audio. It can be the worst audio you can imagine. It can be recorded on your phone. It can be recorded on a cell phone from 2003. And you can plug it in here. You upload that file, and this software will enhance it with using AI, and it will make it sound basically like a podcast. This works so well that I've been off camera being the interviewer, asking questions, and it will take my, in the background, very quiet voice and make it sound like a podcast. It's mind-blowing. It's basically magic what this thing can do. And this is right now. What's this going to be like in a year or two when it's built in to Audition or built into Premiere and you can just click a button and all of the tedious, time, effort, and energy it would take to process audio just gets done in an instant and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And it doesn't matter that you had some audio interference because that happens. It's problems we have to solve for, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just click a button and it's fixed. And it's not a day or a week of someone's time perfectly mastering the audio. Same thing with color, right? Why spend weeks or months color correcting or color grading if in the future AI can you hit a button and it just does it for you? That's the goal that everyone has with LUT packs. And they never work the way you think they're gonna, just click, make your footage cinematic with my LUT pack. No, because you're not shooting it the same way they shot it, even shot to shot, camera to camera. There's so many variables in production, in imagery, that you can't just click a LUT and it looks beautiful. But AI will be able to do that in the future. I'm sure of it. And all that tedious, mundane time sink, that can all go away. Just like the last 10 or 15 years of hardware have made things so much easier, so much more convenient. You're not carrying around massive cameras that weigh 50 pounds anymore. You're not setting up lights that you need a generator to run. Everything has been streamlined on the hardware side, made incredibly tiny. And I've been waiting to see it for software. And I feel like we're kind of there at the beginning of that stage where a lot more of this AI powered workflow can be, just incorporated right into the software. Right now you have to use these other platforms. You have to go to this website, you have to do this thing and kind of piece it all together like a puzzle. But once it's just incorporated right into Adobe or right into whatever software you use, click a button and you're done. Let's see. Going back to the chat and reading, and then I'll wrap this up probably. Thanks, so check it out. So I wish I could make it out there. Coverage. Astrophotographers use them to maintain luminance distinction between stars so that constellations are not lost in so many bright light stars. I don't know what that's in reference to. Speed ramps, ephemeral. Yeah, AI is great to speed things up, but it's only going to take us like 30% of the way for a total project at best. Gets really good. Gotta stop. The cheap Wish products is free shipping. So much garbage out there. Neuralink. Yeah. Facts. See it coming away. Instagram creates reels. Premiere and Final Cut. Yeah. A noisy concert venue playing. Yeah. The AI software tool from Adobe. It's incredible. If you haven't used it, just test it out for fun. And I'm sure you'll find a reason to use it after that because it's so cool. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm excited to go to NAB. It's been a while. I think 2019 was the last time I went. I think that's accurate. I think the first time I went was 2015 or 2016. I could check YouTube. The first time I went, I streamed it. I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow from there. It's kind of messy and clunky and doesn't always create the best content, but I definitely have content planned for after NAB and quickly, hopefully. Again, I'm all about that speed, efficiency. Just people want the content. They want to know. They want the updates. To make it in anything that takes longer than like a couple hours is like a waste of time. But people still want it to be high quality. They want it to be good. They want it to look good. They want it to sound good. So it's all those things balancing. How much can you make? How much quantity can you create at a high enough quality that it's acceptable? And then you pass it a little bit, right? So you impress people. You put out quality content at a very high capacity, quantity, maximizing both quality and quantity. Quality is what I had on this side, quantity on this side. Maximize both as best you can. And it's a hard challenge. That's been the struggle. But the technology continues to push us forward so we can actually get, meet those demands. Because the consumers, they just want it, whatever it is. I don't care. Film it on your phone. I don't care. Just, I need something to look at. Make me laugh. Tell me something interesting. Keep it coming. I'm scrolling here. I'm scrolling. Doom scrolling, right, is the new term. Doom scrolling, just scrolling forever. That's the appetite that people have nowadays for content. That might not always be that way. Maybe in the future it will slow way down and people will just want, I just want the one movie a week and that's it. It's probably healthier to live your life that way. That's what I try and do. Consume as little as possible. It's a good distraction. If you're bored, if you're waiting for something, if you're driving in your car and you got to commute, listen to a podcast. Have YouTube, playing in your earbud, whatever. When you're working and you're editing photos, be listening to something, music or a podcast. But there's also a lot of people out there who are just consuming all the time. And it's hard to be a content creator. And if you're trying to spend, all your time and effort on one piece of content a month, that's going to pop up for a second in someone's feed and they're going to ignore it. It's sad, but it's true. You can fight it and you can hate it and you can say it's bad, but that doesn't change anything. So you can say, all right, I still want to make my high quality content. I want to tell the stories I want to tell. I want to do my job the best I can. But I'm also going to utilize the tools and resources around me to make that process as efficient and simple as possible. So I'm not wasting a month of my time making a piece of content that gets seen for 2 seconds. Because no one wants that scenario. Just incredibly defeating. And it makes people give up, burn out, give up, whatever it is. Instead, embrace the world we live in and say, it is what it is. This is how we create content now. And find a way to make what you want to make, but in a way that meets these modern deadlines, these timelines. Because, there's no client necessarily expecting you to put a video out every day. But on social media, that's kind of what you got to do. You got to find a way to make that work. Capitalize the content. Might be streaming, might be podcasting, might be using your cell phone to make content. There's so many different ways. We have all the tools, and it's just finding the right one that's going to work for you. And that's what I've tried to do over the last 3 years, is figure out, okay, how do I make this work? I want to make good content. I want to make quality content, but I have to find a way to scale it and do it at quantity as well. And I can't just say it sucks that people, scroll on TikTok for 2 seconds and they swipe right by it. That is just the truth of it. So that being a factor, you got to find a way to work around it. I'm going to check the chat one more time, and then I'm going to sign off here. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. I'm looking forward to NAB tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. Early flight, busy day, but it's going to be worth it.